Next, we have on board Dr. Ajit Karunagaran, an astute professional with a successful track record of profitably delivering bleeding edge technology startups and leading high performance teams in diverse and complex markets across SEA and EMEA. Head of Global Business Development at Writer Information, leading digital business transformation and establishing next generation BPAAS services. Writer Information, PN Writer and Company, Mumbai, India, Senior Vice President, Strategic Accounts Group, Business Development. Dr. Ajit Karunagaran is having a PhD in Business Administration from Himalayan University. His Business Excellence CU came from IMC, Ramakrishna Bajaj National Quality Awards, Certified Examiner in Business Excellence, Certified Independent Director, Institute of Directors, MBA in General Management from Cambridge University, USA, Certified Digital Marketing Master, Digital Vidya, BSc Institute Certified for Surveillance, Risk Management and Settlements, Enterprise Content Management ECM, Practitioner Level 1, AIIM International, Certificate in Business Analytics, Postgraduate Diploma in Computer Hardware Engineering, BSc Physics from Mumbai University. So we have the Dr. Ajit Karunagaran, and I'm welcoming him on board. Dear sir, you can take over.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashari, and thank you so much. Good afternoon to all. This is a short presentation about around blockchain, about Web 3.0, and I'm pretty privileged to get this opportunity to present this to the august audience here, professors and the students. I was just looking at the roll call today for technical sessions later this afternoon, and a lot of interesting subjects. And I was just thinking to myself that, like what Professor Ganpati said, it'd be great if many of these projects could also bring in the, could also include the IT value, or the IT backend that could actually make these projects really successful. Some of these projects were great. I mean, in terms of, while I was reading automation of power distribution, interactive learning platforms, excellent case studies for blockchain. So thank you once again for this opportunity. And this is a part of my PhD thesis that I did under Dr. Ashari. And the hypothesis or the question then was, we all know data storage today globally is more centralized. We hear about data centers, we hear about Googles, we hear about Amazons, Azure, and others. So if you look at it, if it's more of a client-server architecture, quite centralized at a point, and then global user base feeding onto it. We do see a big revolution happening in the backend, and as we go in my presentation, I'll hopefully I can put this across to you. And the need for a more decentralized kind of a setup is coming up in a big way. One of the things that's really, one of the big problems as we grow, as our organizations grow, our usage grow, is how do we manage data, right? I mean, it's a good problem to have, but it's a big problem. So if you look at large enterprises who run very complicated kind of business environments, global environments, there are heterogeneous systems in place, data is getting generated on a daily basis. And if you really look at the kind of data getting generated is humongous, right? And it's somewhat like the Moore's law, which says that, every year and a half, the amount of data literally doubles, and the cost of managing the data comes down by almost like 50%. But the fact is, managing this growth in data is a big issue, right? It's a pretty big issue. I mean, if you look at contact centers, we all think contact center is all about a bunch of people sitting with headphones and answering calls. Would you believe today, if I tell you that the calls that are coming into contact centers are less than 30%. It's remaining is all about data, online reputation management, etc., etc. So you're not surprised when a company like Geo comes in and says, "Hey, calls are free. Data is what I charge you for," right? So data is growing, and everyone is looking at multiple ways to manage data. As someone who has spent a lot of time in data storage in my career. I mean, I've been a student of data storage. And for me, as I see various form factors evolve in data storage, blockchain literally is at the cusp of revolutionizing everything we know about data storage. So this short presentation is to give you an idea about what I think this world is going towards, and maybe good pointers for students as they take up their projects to see how they can integrate blockchain or how blockchain will get integrated into their projects or their lives, right? If you really look at an enterprise, right, the information system division is what really manages the enterprise in that sense. And obviously, for any IT department, it is, how well it is linked to the business outcome is important. Obviously, it's also important in terms of the kind of management support it gets, and then the kind of efficiency of architecture it builds. So just imagine the kind of questions an IT manager, typical IT manager would have when he's or she is faced with this question on what is the technology that you built your future on? When you say horizon 1, 2, 3, that is, say, in the next 3 years or 5 years, in the next 7 years, and the next 15 years, what is the kind of system that you need to build, given the explosion of data that we see, right? Every second day, you have regulators coming in with new KYC requirements. Every day, a new app or a new application or a new requirement adds on to the data load, right? In that sense, so it's a tough call. So a lot of IT departments in that sense, or rather large enterprises in that sense, have really started moving to cloud. Why? Because there's a lot of applications that are now cloud-based. There's a lot of aggregation happening there. It's more about platform as a service. So if you go today to someone like Oracle, they are more of an Oracle platform today, right? They were the first one to migrate to cloud on software as a service, rather than just selling shrink wrap software. But today, Oracle is a platform as a service to have, and everything is on that particular platform, and it's all about data management and other applications that they do. But platform as a service is where most of cloud is moving to, and that is where the users are going to. But as we do this, there's also a big question mark about data outage in cloud. That is a reality. Despite N plus N redundancy, when I say N plus N in the sense that you have a data center, you build a redundancy to that. Well, you have 2, now you build redundancy for those 2. Now you have 4, build redundancy for those 4, right? So despite N plus N redundancies, you still have data outage, you still have a Google shutting down for maybe half an hour, or maybe a hacking happening somewhere else. And then you have other regulatory issues coming in, like, for example, data localization, right? Because of data outage, because of data sensitivity, today you do see a lot of federal governments insisting on data localization. In India, you've been hearing a lot of loud noise on the government insisting that the LinkedIns and other have data centers with India data, India-specific data, localized within Indian territory. So that kind of leads to further problem, in the sense that it does lead to latencies. It does lead to lack of control in that sense. Despite the kind of efficiencies that you build in. And so you do see AI coming into data storage in a big way. There's a lot of reinforcement learning that AI brings in. it does create a lot of generative models which are used especially for natural language, especially in conversational interfaces. And I'm sure by now you know that a lot of our apps have conversational interfaces, right? So AI is becoming very important, and especially when you're looking at managing network memory, AI is now kind of becoming a very critical middleware when it comes to managing data. I'm just trying to build the kind of components that are today managing the humongous growth of data, right? And AI ML is something that we keep hearing on a regular basis, and that's more because there's a deluge of data, right? People are today talking about data lake, data ocean. There are products that have, like for example, HP has a product called Green Lake, right? It's green data in that sense. So how do you manage this data when data grows this big? And that is where AI and ML plays a big role to ensure that there is low latency. I mean, as the data size grows, the bigger problem is the speed at which you can access that particular data that you want to, right? So how do you ensure on-time availability, low latency, especially when you're doing analytics? And that is where AI ML comes into play. And as the data goes bigger, obviously performance level, latency level, and then costs associated with it, you try to be smarter and smarter, and that is where AI ML plays. And although we talk about the fact that storage, data storage is not needed in that sense, but storage is kind of evolving too as data grows in size. Now, in these kind of uncertainties, these kind of variables, so to say, in the data world is where blockchain has a big role to play. And one of the key points that I was researching was whether the current client-server architecture that we see will survive, or in the Horizon 1, Horizon 2, do you see that getting changed? Although my research said that no, it would continue for a much longer time, for the next decade or so, you do see the same client-server kind of an architecture happening. But I definitely feel that blockchain is literally, it's like boiling water. You haven't seen the bubbles come up yet, but it's a matter of time. And if 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, I may revise my estimate of saying that 10 years down the line, I don't see, I may say that I don't see the client-server architecture being the only sole data provider for us. There could be much different configurations coming in. I mean, that's how blockchain is growing. But sitting today, I still feel whatever we have today is what is going to continue. So what's so great about blockchain? The fact is that it's decentralized, right? Yeah, the fact is that the users are far more protected. It's more of a democratic system. Given the fact that it's more of sharding and swarming of data, so your data gets spread over, right? And then there are built-in incentives. We keep talking about crypto, that's a wrong focus when you get into the bitcoins and others. But as the price for crypto grows, the opportunity to provide incentives for blockchain-based systems increases, and that is where adoption will happen. I mean, a year back or 2 years back, when we were doing our research, we did not see that kind of spike. But today, Bitcoin is at say $42,000, and maybe 3-4 years down the line, if I'm not just talking about Bitcoin, but if other coins are also at fairly decent price levels, then the idea of sharing incentives becomes a show of feasibility, and that will mean faster adoption. And then one of the things that we have seen so far with blockchain is the fact that there are low instances of drop files. It is not yet being hacked in that sense. I'm a student of cybersecurity. As a part of our services, we do offer cybersecurity services, and we don't see blockchain to be a a problem yet. So I'm sure a lot of you would have learned what is blockchain, what is the blockchain hashing, what are pointers and linked lists. I thought, let me just share this with you. And the fact that this is how a typical a transaction in blockchain is completed, right? The focus is more on the byproduct called crypto, which is more of the reward of proof to work. But the fact is, we miss out on, just focusing on crypto, we miss out on the benefit that blockchain can bring. I mean, if you can imagine India investing in a lot of resources, I think Pune is going to be the nerve center for this, Pune, Ahmedabad. You're going to see a lot of federal government applications that is going to roll out on blockchain. And once that happens, you will see a lot of private sector coming in and adopting blockchain applications, right? So in that sense, this is going to disrupt the data storage model, as we know, for sure. Decentralization is one, loss of files is another thing. There's a lot of incentives. And if this really happens, we're going to forget about a time when we use, the way we use HTTPS, your hypertext protocol secure protocol in that sense. And we're going to be using the IPFS more, in future. And that's the interplanetary file system. So that's more of the distributed peer-to-peer file storage, right? These are small transactional data. That's how the blocks are built. So you may see IPFS in your lingo getting used more, maybe a couple of years down the line, than just HTTPS when we are searching for a particular website or a particular application, right? Although there are non-IPFS systems also coming in, right? So while we talk so big about blockchain has its own limitations. So there's a group of guys who are furiously working to overcome those. So there are multiple levels of efforts happening to ensure that blockchain gets adopted. Now, this is the blockchain world in that sense, right? We are actually going from the Web 2.0 app-based world, which is where we are today, to more of a Web 3.0 distributed app world, And I've also always maintained that it will just take one of these big guys in the 2.0 to flip over to blockchain, and then the rain will start. And I think you see the change in the logo, right? Facebook, Meta, is possibly the single largest global blockchain implementation. Last heard, LinkedIn had already had a core group working on blockchain-based LinkedIn. You never know, maybe Elon Musk or some such character takes over LinkedIn and then decides that blockchain would be the way forward. So we are in the cusp of moving from Web 2.0, from an app-focused kind of a world to more of a distributed app focus. And maybe it's a matter of time when one of these, the Essentials and the Status and the Akasha, all become a part of our daily lingo. The way we wake up in the morning to WhatsApp and go to sleep with WhatsApp, we may be waking up with a Steemit or a Akasha, you never know, right? So that's how this world is fast evolving, right? And if you really look at it for a normal user, there's not much changing at the front end, what is changing is at the database end. So when the change happens, it may not hit us. Like the way Meta happened, and we didn't realize we're already into the blockchain world. So it's a matter of time when the apps really start taking over our world. And if you really look at the foundation of it, it's a mixture of AI, IoT, and blockchain. That is Web 3.0 for you, right? And then it does bring in a lot of transformation. That's a promise that this world brings to us. The fact is that it's going to be peer-to-peer infra. It is consumer-centric. It'll be more of so if you really look at it, our organization, our large enterprises will more of, they call decentralized autonomous companies. So that's how data is going to be. Can you imagine organizations getting defined in that sense because the sheer amount of data that they're going to be handling? the best part about this promise is the fact that there's going to be no centralized authority or control, right? And an approach towards that is already happening in Australia. I think India is possibly one country where the government is pretty loud about the fact that if data is getting used from public domain, then that's what today a lot of Google and others do. They aggregate a lot of data, and so the party who generates or who actually owns the data should be incentivized in that sense. So there are statutory regulatory mechanisms being put in place, but as the blockchain adoption increases, that becomes a norm. So I think we're already in Web 3.0 in that sense. These are some of the very pertinent brands I thought I should bring your notice to. I mean, these are guys who are at the cusp of it. I mean, think about it. Tomorrow, you and me could share a part of our personal hard disk drive with Filecoin and get incentivized for sharing part of our storage, which then becomes a big part of a kind of a distributed in-memory, a global distributed in-memory kind of an architecture, and when incentives can get bigger, get more wider spread, you will find adoption happening much faster, right? But blockchain has its own set of issues. I mean, in the sense that it works only for large files. I mean, that is one issue with blockchain, although there are companies who are working on it. The reason is, if you want a sector like BFSI, which is the largest consumer of data, if you want banking, financial services, insurance companies to adopt blockchain, then their file sizes are very small and the transactional speed is very high. And so you already have companies like Sophocol in India who are leaders in blockchain, who are already working on an alternative to make it much more faster. I mean, last I'm told they already have rolled out an application similar to that, a distributed application similar to that. And the other thing is, the key scalability of blockchain is the immutability of data, in the sense that once you put something in blockchain, you can't change it, which could be an hindrance, especially when you look at BFSI and other areas. And that is something that people are working on. So they are working on superior performance. They are working on reliability, scalability. They are working on more, like I said, a tokenized economy, where individual device owners, individual data owners get incentivized. I think the first level, like I said, is happening in India, Australia, where the governments are forcing aggregators like Google and others to pay for the data that they take from public domain. So that means if a Times of India came up with a particular story and Google runs it, then Google should pay Times of India whatever is agreed charge, that kind of a thing. But just imagine, once you are in a tokenized kind of an economy, it's a done deal, right? And what this would mean is the oligopoly of data in that sense would get replaced. I mean, today you have a few centralized oligarchs in that sense, right? A wrong word to use, but big centralized oligarchy in place, like the Googles and the Alphabets and others, right? And this could get dismantled. And what it means is that the large companies that you see today, there could be a whole new set of larger companies who would be replacing this. There will be more open source, more distributed, more tokenized, more democratic than the kind of structure that we see today, right? And this would mean that services like AI/ML would play much bigger role. A lot of this will not come right at the user level, but this would be more at a middleware play. But you will see a lot more of intelligent distributed apps coming our way, as we go along. These are some of the large. I mean, when you look at the blockchain universe, these are some of the big names that would hit us at some point in time. And long and short of it, welcome to Web 3.0. Welcome to a world where blockchain is going to be a part of us. And so for all the students who are looking at various projects, it's important that you know what blockchain is. Invest your time in this, learn on this. This is going to be a way of life going forward. Thank you all. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Ajit Karunagaran. From his busy schedule of industry, he took some time to discuss with us his thoughts, and very informative part on data storage is concerned. So any questions from the participants?
Or if you can just, I'll just, if you can just go to my LinkedIn, and I could always reply there on LinkedIn. Yeah, just search out for Ajit Karunakaran. There are very few with such a long tail. Thank you so much. Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you very much, sir.